What's up, everybody? Welcome back to the Game Channel. My name is AJ Gales. How y'all doing? We are back with our final E3 video. It is coming to a close. This it has been one that I've been kind of putting off until it's cooled down in my studio and I'm, actually completely awake for it. This is going to be The Last of Us Part 2. This is an interview with them at the PlayStation event. I haven't seen it. I'm coming into this blind, like I come into most things blind. Please, if anybody catches something interesting out of gaming news, please send me a link this week. I'm having trouble finding stuff for the weekly show on Saturday. I have a backup plan in the event that there just really isn't any interesting news. I think the most interesting thing I've seen was that we now have a release date for Valkyria Chronicles 4. I think that's in sometime in September, which, woohoo, sooner than I thought. But please send me any links to anything you find interesting. I'll make my decision. My backup plan is I have about an hour and 15-minute long video of guys from Insomniac going through the stage demonstration of Marvel Spider-Man and talking about that and really kind of diving deep into stuff. And I have a very strong feeling that's what we're going to do on Saturday for the weekly show. But again, like I said, if anybody has anything, please send it to me. I'm extremely interested. And yeah, let's get into this.
With a new look at The Last of Us Part 2, we've got Anthony and Kurt from Naughty Dog here. We're going to be running through that new trailer. And we are going to be seeing what we can learn about all the new game plan mechanics that are teased that we saw there from a significantly older Ellie. So let's get to that trailer because I want to start digging through it with you guys. But first of all, I want to say congratulations.
Thank you.
There's been a huge reception for this game here at E3. The gamers have embraced it. It's racked up millions and millions of views on YouTube. So we're going to take a closer look now. But what's the first thing that goes through your mind when you see this trailer now? I mean, you've been working on this game for a long time. It's now out there in the public, and to just see sort of the reception behind it, what does that mean to you?
So the whole team has just been working super hard on the game and on this trailer and demo in particular, and we're just so excited to finally be able to share what we think is super amazing with the rest of the world. And we're really hoping with this trailer that people can kind of get what is happening with Ellie, like has the opportunity to be like a normal teenager. We're seeing like kind of this sweet teen romance that she's able to have, and also kind of just get a glimpse, just like a small glimpse of the vast number of new mechanics and new player abilities that we're going to have in The Last of Us Part 2.
I liked the...
If anybody out there what's the time span between the first game and this one? Because I actually don't know. Because Ellie was about 13, 14 in the first game. So she's probably in this one at least 16, I guess. I'd guess more pushing 17, 18 is her age. But honestly, I think aging Ellie, and now that we're playing with her, I mean, I'll probably talk more about this when we get into the gameplay, and I talked about this during the actual conference. But the biggest thing that I'm excited to do is actually play as Ellie. Like, one of my favorite chunks of the original Last of Us was the chunk during winter where you had to play as Ellie, and she was totally different than Joel because she couldn't be as physical as he could, as in, you couldn't punch the infected in the face. All that, she had to rely more on stealth. She didn't really have all the long guns. I mean, she had one rifle and a bow and arrow. It was very well done. Oh wait, no, she also had a pistol, didn't she? And the Left Behind DLC was also, in my opinion, I really love the Left Behind DLC because we got to see Ellie's past and mix that with the playing in that mall as Ellie. I thought was also very, very well done. So I'm going to be interesting to see. I think they're going to kind of go like a halfway with the way that she interacts with the world and does combat. I was reading a little bit of an article because from IGN, that's who did it. They talked about the changes in gameplay that they had to do from switching to Joel to Ellie, because she's physically smaller, she's younger, she's not going to be able to, just like I said, just like crack people in the face like Joel could. So she has to rely more on on a little bit more on stealth, on being resourceful. We saw a lot of crafting in the demo that we saw on stage. So it's I think it's going to kind of be a halfway between what we saw in the first game and what Joel was able to do in the first game, because I don't think she's completely, like I said, it's just physical limitations because she's just not as big as Joel. Even not saying Joel was massive, but you get what I mean. But at the same time, she's older and bigger than what she was when she was a kid. Because, when she was a kid, she jumped up on somebody's back and, had to stab him a few times in the neck with her little switchblade. So I think we're going to see something totally new here. Also, from what I saw in the gameplay on stage, I saw a lot of Uncharted kind of creep its way in there, and in no way is that a bad thing because the action segments in Uncharted are phenomenal. Sorry, I went on a total tangent. I went on a rant and a tangent.
Being in the room, the physical
a rangent, if you would,
for the press conference.
Right.
That was really rad to see. The press kind of shuffling in and being very confused about what this space was, and then the record scratch and the thing, and then the black lifts, and we see the crowd seeing the room that they're in on the screen, and they're like, whoa, this is this eureka moment of like, oh yeah, I get it. So it was really awesome, something that we didn't get to experience when we're looking at this thing a million times. To see it there with 1,000 people in the crowd, it was pretty rad.
The response in the room was just electric. Like, I was just over the moon with the response in the room. The people were cheering, people were kind of gasping, and with all the intensity and stuff. So it was really great to be able to be a part of that.
And what was it like to revisit Ellie's character for Last of Us Part 2? Because it's rare we see a character grow, both physically and emotionally across a series. So how did you approach the design of Ellie differently for Part 2?
So for Part 2, it's 5 years after the first game. And,
there we go.
Ellie has been forced to survive in this world for 5 years. She's picked up a lot of lessons from Joel, but she's had to learn a lot of stuff on her own.
Yeah.
So she doesn't have the same kind of impressive physicality like the raw bulk that Joel has. So she's had to be a lot more kind of creative and strategic in using her agility and using every resource at her disposal to kind of overcome these overwhelming odds. So that's why she's able to dodge enemies in order to handle multiple enemies at once. We're seeing that very kind of kinetic melee system that we have. It's a lot deeper than the original. That's why we've added a jump button to kind of add verticality and a little.
Right there, he mentioned it. I think that was the best way he said kinetic. I can't remember the exact term, and I know it was like 20 seconds ago. But he said kinetic combat, or when it's like the hand-to-hand system. That's what they did with Uncharted. Honestly, I liked the old way, the older Uncharted games when it came to like the actual like punching of people. But all in all, I thought. I think it'll work for this game, especially with Ellie, because it looks like we're using a lot of guerrilla tactics. Going in, hitting quick, dodging out, kind of receding into the shadows, and then shooting arrows and distracting people. So a lot of that, like they said, like relying on stealth and her head, as opposed to with Joel, you could kind of run at people and you'd pretty much be fine. Now, and again, the addition to the jump button, again, we'll see it a little bit later. I mean, if you watched the press conference and the gameplay, you know exactly what we're gonna see. That's straight from Uncharted, if you ask me. Because, you could see the ledge, you could see, like, the scratches below the ledge that indicate that, oh, I can jump up and grab onto this and climb into this building or climb onto this ledge. And that's extremely, that's most platformers in general, but it's not saying Uncharted's a platformer, but again, you know what I mean. That's definitely an evolution in this game.
A little bit more of a platforming element to her escapes. So just in general, her moveset is a lot more creative, a lot more agility focus, but still extremely deadly.
I personally like that we age our characters kind of over in real time. Like we did similar thing with Uncharted 4 with like an older Drake, and kind of similarly here we get to see as we've aged as developers, and the character gets to grow up with us. So I don't know, I'm excited that we get to see Ellie as in her late teens.
And I got to point out just the technical mastery here on that kiss. That is extremely difficult to make a kiss between two non-human characters essentially look that realistic. So incredible job there. And we're going to dive into a little bit of the gameplay that we got to look at here. Tell me.
Okay, you know what? I think some people were. I have to agree with that. That was technically that's amazing because I kind of make this joke, with video game characters that a lot of times when there's kissing, it kind of looks like you're smashing two dolls or action figures faces together. It's I can't remember whose stream it was. It was like, my favorite part of kissing is when you clack your teeth together. But no, I mean that was technically there's an entire video on how they had to record that and everything. Very complicated, but you have to give it to Naughty Dog. I mean they know how to create a game and make it just look absolutely beautiful. Like even this stuff when it's darker and it's a lot grittier, I still think it has a great visual flair to it.
What the overall design goal was for this game? Where was your head at?
So overall, we're really inspired by sequels that take risks. We like it when sequels don't just make incremental improvements over the prior success. With this game, we really wanted to take a hard look at every subsystem in the game, question all our assumptions, and ask ourselves, like, how can we take this to the next level? How can we make a quantum leap with this system? So it's just like one small example, the stealth system. We've introduced analog stealth. So it used to be kind of binary, whether an enemy could see you or not. But now the combination of the stealth foliage, the foliage that Ellie is able to move through, and her stance, whether she's standing, crouched, or prone, those two factors combine to kind of influence how well enemies are able to see you. So it creates a much more nuanced, kind of deep system. And we've kind of taken that same approach with melee, crafting, traversal, just across the board with all the gameplay systems.
Okay, so what he was saying there about the stealth, I'm gonna take that as the rules aren't extreme, like clearly defined, and I know that's gonna sound like a little wishy-washy from me, and sometimes I don't like that in games where it's like the rules of like, well, what constitutes as detection, what constitutes as this. I think the early Assassin's Creed games did that, but I think they tried to make such a very, very strict system that there was so many steps to it and layers that I think it was a little complicated, in my opinion. I think it got easier as the franchise went on, but with what they're mentioning here, it sounds like it's a lot more kind of wishy-washy, and it's a lot more, well, you're half in this bush but half not in the bush, and you're crouched, so all this stuff comes together to be how the enemy sees you. And, is he maybe alerting everybody? No, but maybe he's going to come check it out. Maybe he's going to tell one of his buddies. I think it's going to be a lot more dynamic, and it's going to be a lot more natural. It's not going to be those... I don't think you're going to be able to break the AI like you could in other stealth games where it's like the set rules and patterns of how the enemy AI will react. So I think they're shooting for a more like lifelike, not just with the systems and with Ellie herself. I think they're shooting for something more natural with the AI. That's how I interpret what they just said.
Sort of a higher fidelity in these systems that we know from The Last of Us Part 1.
Both in terms of the choice that is available to the player strategically, but then that choice is represented with the Naughty Dog level of fidelity.
Yep.
So
I mean,
it's kind of like those
gorgeous.
two pieces, create the experience.
Excellent.
Yeah, just something like going prone sounds simple, but the vegetation it allows us to do and the different combat spaces that allows us to create, now we have to think about, the enemy AI now has to check under things, and there's all these new interesting areas that we can let the player go, and how to use prone in a variety of situations, going inside vegetation, going under cars, being on top of something and being prone to hide from an enemy below. Something that's simple, and then there's like all these.
Okay, up there was what I was talking about, like that you kind of like see that paint or those scratches. I mean, that's obviously, excuse me, something you can climb. They made the mention of with the prone, like you can go under cars. We get to see something really cool later. Again, if you didn't see this gameplay, you didn't see the conference. I mean, this led the conference. I mean, come on. But when you were able to sit under the car, like when somebody like bent down to, I can't remember if they bent down, he scored the headshot right when he bent down to check under the car, or just shot him in the ankle. But it was a really neat idea to actually like sit under the car and then shoot from that position. It's like I said, I think it's very much guerrilla ambush tactics that you really get to utilize in this game, and I think they're trying to pull as many restrictions away from the player as possible so that we get to decide how we want to take on each individual engagement. I think that was something that I think that The Last of Us was a little bit more rigid in. I think there were certain optimal ways to take every different engagement in the game, and then I think this one is going to be kind of like, here's point A, here's point B, and you can go multiple different ways to get between two said points. There's not like an optimal path.
Interesting gameplay things that we can get out of it. So it's like those, where do we get those big wins for what we can do in design and really give the player more breadth of strategy and options?
Ellie is obviously a very accomplished survivor now. So how do you strike that balance between making the player feel empowered when they're controlling Ellie, but also making the world feel like an incredibly dangerous place to be?
I think the thing is that we've escalated both. So you'll see that the AI is even smarter than the first game. You can see them constantly coordinating with each other, relaying the knowledge that they know about. You can see them referring to each other by name, kind of even showing the depths to which we're trying to represent these as like real intelligent humans. And then at the same time, Ellie has become even more capable, between the dodge or her new crafting items like the explosive arrow, giving you kind of this very deadly long-range option. So by bringing up both at the same time, we're both increasing the tension, but every way that the player is able to deal with these challenges has to be strategic. You have to kind of be creative and use every resource at your disposal in order to overcome these very intelligent enemies.
One of the things I want to point out here is this melee combat is Ellie has this ability to sort of dodge very quickly. She's much more nimble than Joel was in the first game. So tell me a little bit about how that melee system kind of comes together in The Last of Us Part 2.
So
very good question.
Again, wanted to kind of question our assumptions about the melee system and ask ourselves, what can we do to make this deeper, more complicated? So by giving the player a defensive option, it's really like adding a whole new dimension to the melee combat. So it's almost like going from 2D to 3D. So not only does it give the player the ability to manage multiple enemies at once, it really creates just a system where you need to know when is your time to go in and when you kind of have to play defensively and back off.
Again, I think this system is actually an evolution of even what they did in Uncharted 4. I think Uncharted 4, they were, and I think I said this all the way through the Uncharted franchise, they kept trying to push the melee combat to flow into gunplay very well, but two, I think it was a constant push to make it more cinematic and make it look more like a real fight, not just I press square, he punches, guy gets hit and falls backwards. No, it's, you see them utilizing the environment, being pushed against walls, or you saw there with Ellie, she pulled back from that person who swung at her, and she kind of leans against the car, pushes off of that, and then hits them with the hammer, grabs the hammer, beats the other guy down with the hammer. Again, it's more of a cinematic vibe to the combat. It's trying to make it look like, was that? It's stuff that I have to see and go, is that like a cutscene, like a planned event, or is that me controlling Ellie that I might not even see that because I might have not gotten discovered? I think that's what they're going for here.
And one thing I think is really cool is that we're able to bring the depth kind of other, like a more traditional melee-focused game, but kind of pair it with the fidelity of a Naughty Dog game. So whenever she does a dodge, there's this whole pretty intricate system where it examines the direction of the incoming melee strike, and she does something contextual that is always kind of, that honors where that move is coming from.
That's a great detail. That is some high-end stuff there.
It also allows us to have different weapon types that the enemies use. We see the bigger guy at the end there with his big pickaxe.
Yep.
And he's got a kind of a different set of things. He's blocking attacks. So blocking and parrying is a feature of this new system. We have dodge.
Again, I'm sorry, I'm pausing mid sentence. I try not to, but I want to make this point. I mean, you saw it there. Again, going back to that cinematic element, sitting under that. Honestly, I love small little stupid details sometimes that I might. Witcher 4 or Witcher 3. Sorry, I'm giving what I wish could have been. When Geralt's beard grew in real time, I absolutely loved it. I absolutely loved that his beard grew the more you were out running around. Uncharted 4, to go back to an actual Naughty Dog title, watch the reload animations. Like, I got lost in those, watching Nate just, drop the magazine, put one in, pull the slide, and it looked so good. And that when she's under the car, you actually see her pull back the hammer. Or, cock the gun before she shoots, comes out, gets pushed up against the car, sitting prone, but not usual prone on your stomach, but prone on your back, and as the guy's coming down at you, you draw and pop, 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 right center mass in the torso. Again, it's mixing gameplay with cinematics, or finding a way to make gameplay even more cinematic in nature.
And different types of weapons. We have smaller handheld weapons, and then bigger two-handed weapons, and these really big weapons. So there's like all this different complexity of like how the weapons interact with each other, and how the bigger enemies can swing and interact with the environment.
That's awesome right there with that.
And then he can pick you up and throw you through the environment all systemically. So it's really exciting to really develop that in the heat of a stealth encounter. To be able to have these melee engagements it just adds another, like Anthony said, it's like going from 2D to 3D of, the depth of combat.
Absolutely loved watching her pull that arrow out.
Details and animation and lighting that I didn't notice the last time.
I mean, it seems like no matter how bad it gets in these combat situations, there's always something you can do to escape. You've always got an option. I mean, how did you design the game in such a way that it feels like that you're on the edge, but you're never completely down?
So it's it's a very desperate world. It's very high pressure with these very intelligent enemies. But one thing that's kind of important for people to realize about this demo is this is just one possible playthrough through this space. So I think at any given time, I think perceptive viewers will notice that the player didn't have to go this way. They could have gone this completely other way. She didn't even have to go into this store. So kind of the combination of these very wide, kind of lush environments with the very intelligent AI that kind of is able to coordinate and react to every choice that you're making, along with kind of this new suite of player abilities. I think players are...
Sorry. I want to pull it back just a little bit. I want to
be surprised.
I want to take a closer look at that crafting menu.
With the very intelligent AI that kind of is able to coordinate. And
okay, so here we have the normal weapon radial like we had in the first game. That's not that odd. I'm assuming that we can either pick up skills or pick up something, or however character progression, because I mean, not Uncharted. The first Last of Us game had basically had like a player kind of progression that additional holsters. You could keep more than one long gun equipped at a time, so so it was easier to switch between them. So I'm assuming there's going to be some sort of player progression that you get more than just a pistol and your bow as the game goes on. Just like I'm certain that there's that modifying the weapons is also going to keep going. So now let's. Okay, it's this one. All right. So I think this is just a simple looking AI. I think this is just a cleaner UI than the first game had. It's craft explosive arrows, how many you have, the different the required resources. And see, I find this one interesting because I mean, obviously that's med kit, Molotov, smoke bomb, normal arrow, explosive arrow, some sort of melee weapon, and I'm not sure if you're making like homemade silencers like out of like an oil filter or air compressor, like something like that. So I'm honestly want to play around with this system even more, and maybe they're getting rid of like the workbenches, and that's how you upgrade your weapons. That's how you upgrade your pistols, or maybe they're getting rid of that system entirely, in which the pistol, like you have a pistol and it's out of ammo and you see this revolver, you have to drop that pistol and take the revolver. You have less of a connection with the guns. This is all. I'm sorry. I'm getting into speculation. I have no confirmation on any of this, but it's just stuff that ran through my head when I saw this menu. I wanted to take like a nice little look at it.
Along with kind of this new suite of player abilities, I think players are going to be surprised at kind of the very emergent, unique moments that they're able to get based on their own choices.
Oh, Jesus
Stealthy
Christ.
can you be in it? Could you technically sneak through this entire area without?
Okay, I got lost when she macheted that guy in the skull, but I missed that explosion. Did you see the person they hit with the explosive arrow? You just saw them go and go all over the place. Absolutely fantastic. Real quick before he goes into, can you stealth through, do this mission entirely stealth? Let's take kind of talk about the world that we've seen in this video so far. I mean, the storefront is something I maybe expect to see in The Last of Us Part 1 or the first Last of Us game. But the thing that I absolutely love is how it's kind of the civilization, like the buildings and everything, are now really starting to be overrun by nature. I mean, the first game, it was when Joel lost his daughter, and then it jumped 20 years, I think? I think that's about right. I think it jumped about 20 years. And that's where we really start playing the game. And now we're another 5 years after that, so you're kind of seeing nature kind of encroaching even more, like this little city. You're seeing all this foliage and all this stuff where you'd expect roads and buildings to be. So I think it's going to open up even cooler things for stealth. I think it's going to create a lot more. It's going to create some really neat environments to explore in the game. Not just this one, but I'm going to guess they're going for like an even more like survivalist, like kind of like nature Rambo vibe.
Engaging any enemies at all?
One of the goals for us is we always like when you can stealth by, and one of the pillars of this is to give the player as many options in combat, and one of those options is to not fight. Yeah. So, depending on the space, depending on the story, depending on a lot of things, but we always want to encourage, whatever playstyle the player chooses, and like you mentioned, escaping is like a big thing, and we always want to feel like every space has somewhere to escape to or a way out.
All right. Let's look at what just happened. I mean, we had that again. I'm going to keep harping on that. How this looks just so the way all this looks. She's dodging that big hammer swing. You see him bashing into the aisle next to him, and how he reacts to that. But then running back through here, she dodges the arrow, runs through this little gap, dodges another arrow up close while swinging the blade, takes this person out, and then this person's arrows fall on the ground. You see Ellie pick them up and throw them into the backpack, and you actually see the individual arrows in the backpack. Earlier when she was kind of stealthing around this way, there was a body over here. You saw her actually pull the arrow out of the guy and then put it into. I mean, you saw similar things with Joel, but it's even tighter. And like I said, I keep harping on it, but that if this is how the game looks all the way through, and isn't just like here's the developer run, which I always think sometimes are a little bit more showy than the game actually is. If this is what we actually get, holy hell, this is one nice job.
Where confrontation isn't the only option. So that's kind of built into all of our levels, the hiding places and in vegetation and just escape routes
awesome.
In general.
And escape is always like kind of a critical part of The Last of Us, like kind of core combat loop. So it's about these like moments of extreme tension when enemies don't know exactly where you are. When you get discovered, it kind of explodes into action, and you're kind of like forced to like fight very actively for your life. But then with kind of the new features like the jump button or being able to squeeze through tiny gaps or prone under stuff, we've like kind of increased the depth of even just running away from your enemies. It now has kind of a lot more dimensionality to it.
No, we got a quick look at the crafting menu there as well just a few seconds ago, and we heard you mention, and we saw sort of results of explosive arrow. So I'm curious what the thought process is around crafting at this point. I know you guys are still deep in development, things can change, but where are you thinking in terms of crafting?
We wanted The Last of Us 1 has like a very elegant crafting system. And, for us, that core trade-off of, even just the recipes and what you can craft and how the things overlap, we've expanded it so that we can have some new elements to give the player a broader range of options, but also have these overlaps in the recipes. So, even, you know, in the heat of combat, when it's like I can craft these two things, but if I craft this, I'm going to lose this, and
Yep.
holy crap! And
Do I
then,
heal or do I make a Molotov cocktail? It's the
right,
classic example.
that classic example kind of layered in more depth in the crafting system.
That's terrific. Are you still looking at having, and again, this is early days, but upgradable weapons? That was something that was a lot of fun to play around with in the first game as well.
Yeah, we have upgradable weapons, and like we said, different craftable ammo types. So yeah, we're going to be talking about more of the player upgrade stuff. We're rethinking again, challenging all our assumptions about player upgrades, weapon upgrades, and we'll be talking more about that in the future.
There we go. Answer to my question.
What's really cool about it is that it kind of creates this connection between the crafting system and the gunplay system. So we really like trying to bridge these gaps so that different systems can synergize and interplay with each other.
Now, I don't want to get ahead of myself or anything here, but we did see human enemies in this. Presumably, the infected are still running around, making people's lives difficult. So what can you tell us about just sort of the broad strokes of how you're approaching that?
So we can't talk too much about the infected, but we can say that they still are a very big threat in this world, and that we will be featuring new types of infected in The Last of Us Part 2.
Wonderful.
I mean, how open is the world? We saw the combat situation there, and you've mentioned that the areas are quite big, and you can approach situations in multiple different ways. Like, was that a goal of yours to make the environments feel bigger and more open?
Yeah, you know, this is the first Last of Us on PlayStation 4 and PlayStation 4 Pro, so we're taking that idea of, you know, giving the player more options, giving the player a little more width on some spaces. It always, of course, depends on the story, depends on the tension we're trying to get in a given moment. But yeah, and also the idea of kind of seamlessness is just something we always try to push for in our games, and that extending into the layout of levels and where a combat space is and where isn't a combat space. What is an explore space? What's a combat space? Kind of blurring that line a little bit and making sure the player's on their toes as far as like where a threat could be in the world.
This is something that Kurt's been pushing really hard on, which I'm a super big fan of, is this sense of like kind of never really knowing quite when a combat space ends and the next one begins. And not only does it mean that there's this very consistent sense of threat, but it really strengthens the sense of place and the sense of immersion that the player has, because you feel like without kind of the, oh, this is a combat space, this isn't, which even if it's subliminal, I think players pick up on.
Yeah.
By kind of making it a little bit more analog, a little more seamless, you really feel like you're in these locations.
I get that.
Game is obviously looking fantastic, and Kurt, one thing I did want to point out as well is, you know, you had a key role in Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which introduced a lot of this sort of more open sandbox feel, and I would imagine that some of that would sort of rub off, so to speak, on The Last of Us Part 2. I mean, has it influenced the development of the game, or do you see them as different things?
I mean, we always, you know, every project you work on, at least at Naughty Dog, you know, you look at that genre, you look at that game, and it's, you know, what is the best thing for evolving that franchise? And, you know, obviously when we work on different projects, you know, it's not just me, a lot of, like, almost everyone at Naughty Dog works on every single project. So everyone learns a little bit, even if it's just some tech thing or some technique of how to do something, and then, oh, it gets brought over to the next project. So in a lot of ways, yeah, like The Last of Us 1 has influenced Uncharted 4, has influenced, you know, Lost Legacy, and we just kind of keep building on what is useful and what does make sense to bring the skills that we've developed in making something for Uncharted into making something that's specifically for The Last of Us.
That's awesome. So very much its own beast, The Last of Us, as it should be. Looking fantastic, looking just gorgeous. I can't wait to play it. We know you guys are still heavy in development, so we won't get into release timing yet. I know you're not ready for any of that, but Rob, do you have any final questions for us?
I'd say 2020.
I just can't wait to play it.
Yeah, I mean, that's what it is for me. Like, when do I get to play?
No, I think actually, like, the thing I'm so stoked about is, like, if you just look at this demo and you imagine a whole game that is like this, I just get so excited about that prospect.
Absolutely.
I'm so proud of what the team was able to accomplish with this, and I can't wait to reveal more about the game later.
Awesome.
All right. Well, thank you, gentlemen. Very impressive new look at The Last of Us Part 2. Learned a lot more about mechanics and systems and just how the game...
I'll cut this one here. Yeah, I think this is the best interview I have seen in a long time, because they were actually able to look at things and talk about mechanics and actually really dive into the processes of the game. I think that's a big problem nowadays with these kind of interviews. I mean, obviously, I understand it's not necessarily the interviewer's fault, because I'm sure they have questions that they're allowed to ask, or that even the development team can answer. But it's gotta be, but it's kind of frustrating as a fan to sit through this 17, 18 minute, hell, I sat through those hour-long panels. You can watch me doing the Ghost of Tsushima video from last year's PSX. I mean, I got really drunk during that. But I was just sitting there pissed, going, talk about the fucking game. Stop talking about the stupid trailers and the horses. So I really think that this was a very informative panel. I think breaking this down again was really fun. I hope you guys got something out of it. I hope you guys got something out of all of my E3 stuff this year. That's why I do this. I do this not only to share my opinions, to get better on a mic, but to, I don't know, maybe to interact with you guys, to maybe inform you guys on this, or maybe make you guys hear a different perspective that maybe you didn't hear elsewhere, or anything like that, or maybe I just entertain you. I don't know why you watch, but I hope you enjoyed it. I hope you got something out of all this E3 coverage. Thank you so much for watching, everybody. I do this because, not only because I absolutely love it, I do this because I love interacting with you guys. So please, if you have anything you want to tell me about E3, the conferences, anything like that, you do that down in the comments. You can send me links, and I will always take a look at articles. I'm always happy to interact with you guys on, like I said, in the comments, or on any of the social media platforms that I have linked in the description. I'll also have a link to this video in the description. And other than that, hit that like button if you enjoyed the video. It really helps out the channel a lot. Helps me, move up and move through the algorithms. And other than that, if you're not already, please subscribe to the channel. Stay tuned for more next time. But until then, my name is AJ Gels. My name is AJ Gels. This is the Thar Gaming Channel. God, I'm flubbing the end here. Last time, E3 2018. I'm out.